welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today we're going to be doing my October mid-month wrap-up. So I'm downstairs. My light that I normally use to film with is not working. And there's no natural light in my room where I normally film, so I had to come downstairs and put you up in front of the windows in my living room to try and get some natural light. So there are no lights on, just the natural light. I don't know why my light in my room is not working. Hopefully it'll be better by the next video I have to film, but hopefully this lighting is okay for this video. It is time for mid-month wrap-up. I have read 15 books so far in October. I haven't had the best reading month, like ratings wise. I've had a lot of 3 and 3.5 star reads, which is a little disappointing, but I have had a couple of really good ones. So I'm just gonna get right into the video and we're gonna go over the 15 books that I've read so far this month. So the first book that I started the month off with was Don't Forget Me Tomorrow by A.L. Jackson. I got an audio arc of this book and I unfortunately didn't love this one. I really enjoyed book 1 in this series, which was called Love Me Today, which is why I applied for the arc for the second one. I was really excited. However, with this second one, it is a brother's best friend. It is a single mom. It's romantic suspense. It had all these like buzzwords that I was excited about. I was like, this is gonna be so good. But it didn't really work for me. I was very bored during especially the first half of this book. The second half, I got a little bit more interested as the suspense aspect actually picked up, but I guessed everything about the suspense, which normally wouldn't bother me, but because I was already feeling very bored and like the book was going very slowly, the fact that I guessed it meant that there was no like big reveal that made me excited and made me like stick into the book and be really interested. I also, because I wasn't caring about the book because it was feeling so slow to me, I didn't really care about the characters and I didn't really believe the connection between them because I didn't care about them. And so I ended up giving the book 3 stars. It just didn't really work for me and I just was bored. I'm still intrigued to read the next book in the series because I did like book 1 so much, so book 3 will follow a different couple and hopefully I will like that one again just like I liked book 1, but just this one, too slow and I didn't really connect to the characters, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. The second one that I read was Rachel Reed's new book, which is Time to Shine. This is a hockey romance and it has kind of a Christmas vibe to it. It takes place around like Christmas winter time. This is her new one. I got it on the library from the library and this one I liked. It was very cute, but I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. It just didn't wow me. It wasn't super exciting, but it was cute. It was good. It just wasn't like great. You know what I mean? And so I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. However, I would recommend this one. It was very cute. It was very sweet. If you want just like a nice Christmas themed romance, hockey, if you just want it to be just like a sweet romance, I would recommend this one because it was very wholesome, very nice. It just didn't have a lot of stakes and I just didn't like, I felt like it needed like a little bit more to it in order to be a higher rating for me. But I did enjoy it. It was cute and 3.5 stars. Then I read Clueless Puck Boy by Eden Finley and Saxton James. This is the next book in their Puck Boy series. It came out this month and this one I gave 4 stars. I liked this one. I thought this was super cute. This whole series is just, I know exactly what I'm getting with Eden Finley and Saxton James. I know exactly what I'm getting with this series and it's just so fun, very low angst, very just silly characters. I know I'm gonna have a great time when I read these books and this one was no exception to that. One of the heroes is a hockey player and he has a groin injury. He pulled a muscle in his groin and he doesn't want to get massaged by the therapist for the team, the physical therapist for the team, because he's super attracted to him. He has a crush on the physical therapist for the team, and so every time the therapist goes to like try and stretch him out or massage him, he gets an erection and he's super embarrassed by this, and so he's like, he pretends that he's fine because he doesn't want to embarrass himself in front of the guy that he has a crush on. But because of that, he ends up accidentally making his injury worse, and then he actually is forced to be around the guy that he has a crush on because he can't move, and the guy he has a crush on, the therapist, ends up staying with him in order to help him out. He has to he can't move, and so the physical therapist has to do everything for him, and so they end up in this very forced proximity, and they end up finding out that the physical therapist had a crush on him too. He finds it so sweet and wholesome that the hockey player just gets so flustered around him, and they end up having a very cute romance. I really liked it. I loved the fact that we got, what is his name? The hero from Line Mates and Study Dates is the hockey player hero's best friend, and I loved him. I love him in his book, and I was so glad to see him again in this book. He's just Asher. His name's Asher Dalton, and he's just such a little shit, and I love him, and so I loved having him back and just seeing him. I love all of the queer collective guys. We got a cameo from Soren and Jet, which I loved, and so it was just really great to see all the heroes all together from all of the past books, from all of the Sandinverse, I think that's what they call it. So for somebody who's read all of their books and notices all of their old cameos and things, I loved this because the hero, the hockey player hero, whose name I can't remember, of course, he relies very much on the queer collective in order to help him out, and so we got so many cameos from them, and I just loved that. I loved seeing all the old heroes, so I had a great time with it. 4 stars. I would recommend it. It wasn't my favorite in the series. I think my favorite in the series is still Irresponsible Puckboy, but it was so fun and good, and I just knew what I was getting with it. Then I had 2 5-star books in a row after that. The first one was an advanced copy, and that is Shadows of You by Catherine Cowles. I got her arc. I listened to the audiobook. It was utterly and completely fabulous. I adored this book. I gave it 5 stars. It is my new favorite in this series. My previous favorite in this series was Whispers of You. This is the Lost and Found series by Catherine Cowles. My previous favorite in the series was Whispers of You, which was the first one, and this is my new favorite in the series for sure. It is possibly even my new favorite Catherine Cowles book. I adored this. Aspen and Roan were just so freaking good together. This is a romantic suspense book with a reclusive, grumpy hero. The heroine is a single mother who's on the run from somebody who wants to harm her, and it was so good. The heroine, Aspen, she is, like I said, she's on the run from somebody who wants to harm her. She's changed her identity. She's living in the small town now, and she is very jumpy because she is afraid that this guy is going to come after them. And so she lives on this farm with her daughter, and they rescue or help out wounded animals. She's a huge animal lover. Whenever they find wounded animals or animals who've been rejected by other people, they take them in. They find this wounded deer, and they call Fish and Wildlife to say, hey, we want this deer needs to be helped. And Roan comes. He works for Fish and Wildlife, and he, as this grumpy guy, very reclusive guy who doesn't talk very much, comes and helps them with this wounded deer. And Aspen and him end up with this really amazing romance. I loved the chemistry between the two of them. I loved how big of a role the daughter played in it. Her relationship with Roan was wonderful because she had that childlike innocence where Roan is this big guy. He doesn't talk very much. He's actually a little scary for everyone else in the town. They're a little wary of him. And this daughter came right up to him, and she immediately trusted him, bonded with him, and it was so sweet to see Roan be so sweet with this child, and I loved it. I loved the way that the romance progressed. It was so freaking good. The suspense aspect was really, really interesting. Catherine Cowles does this amazing job of towing the line between the perfect amount of suspense and romance, and it was so good, so well done. New favorite from her. I would highly recommend this one, this whole series, and Catherine Cowles in general, because honestly, I feel like she's just getting better and better with her writing. I'm so proud of her, and she's done a fantastic job with this book. Then the second book after that I gave 5 stars, so I had 2 5 stars in a row, was Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. I had a really good feeling about this book. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love this, and I love the cover of it. And I was right. I loved this. It was so good. This is a second chance romance between a wedding planner and a florist who does the flowers for weddings. And the heroine loves weddings. She's a wedding planner. She loves weddings. She believes in weddings, but she doesn't believe that marriage is long lasting. She doesn't believe that relationships are long lasting. Her mother has been married 15 times, and she's like, I don't believe that love is long lasting. She ends up having a romance with this florist guy, but because she doesn't think that love is long lasting, she doesn't believe in like serious relationships, and so she's like, oh, we're just in a casual relationship. But the hero wants them to be in a serious relationship, and so it's very different of what they want for the relationship, and it kind of puts tension on it. And then this book is a second chance romance, and what I found really interesting about this book is what it felt like is that her perspective is from now with the second chance, and then his perspective was a lot of like flashbacks to when they were originally first together. So you got the original story of their romance and then also their like second chance. It was so good. I really loved it. I gave it 5 stars. So well done. I really liked the writing style in this one, and I definitely want to read more from Julie Soto. I actually don't think that she has a lot of other books, or if she has any other books, but I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for books when she comes out with them, because I really liked this one. Then I read The Best Laid Plans by Carla Sorensen. This is her new book this month. It is a Montlake published book, and so it was available from Kindle Read and Listen. I actually got a physical ARC of this book, but I never read it. I don't read physical books, so I never read it before the book came out, and so I wanted to make this one a priority when it came out, and so I listened to it with KU Read and Listen, and I enjoyed this one. This is the first book of Carla's that I've read that's outside of the Washington Wolves universe. I have never read her other books. I've only ever read her sports Washington Wolves universe, the Washington Wolves original books, the Ward sisters, and then the Washington Wolves Next Generation ones. And so this was my first one of hers that wasn't associated with that, and I liked it. It was good. I gave it 4 stars. This one is about a hero whose best friend and best friend's wife die in a car accident, and he is given their house in the will. They had bought this house that they wanted to renovate, and it was like a historical type of house. They wanted it to be renovated like with historical accuracy to give it a historical certification. So when they died, he's left this house, and he ends up having a romance with the renovation person, the woman who's in charge of the renovation for the house. She's a historian, and she's in charge of the like historical accurate renovation for the house. Their meet cute was hilarious. She wanted to show him how determined she was for this project to go on, because she had heard like gossip that he might be selling the house without renovating it, and so she handcuffs herself to like the banister of the house. It was hilarious. I loved it. This one definitely dealt with grief because his best friend has died. It was interesting because this is not what he wanted, and he had this difficulty, this problem where he was grappling between what he wanted and what he thought that his dead friend would want. And so it was interesting. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I would recommend it because I'm excited for what this book potentially will lead to, especially with the possible romance that they teased for book 2. I'm really hoping that book 2 is following the 2 guardians of the guy that died's child. I think it would be fabulous. I think that would be a great romance. And so I liked it. 4 stars. Then I read American Queen by Sierra Simone. This one was available on Audible Plus, and so I wanted to try it, and I didn't love this one. This one did not really work for me. It is a romance between a heroine and the President of the United States and also the Vice President of the United States. I think eventually going to be MMF. This one is book 1 in the series, and so it doesn't really get into the MMF part except towards the end. The heroine has always been involved in the political atmosphere because her grandfather is the former vice president of the United States, and her parents died when she was a child, so she's been raised by her grandfather very much in the political world. And when she's younger, like early teens, she meets this guy who's older than her. They share a kiss, and then she doesn't see him again, but she writes him letters, and that guy ends up being, later on, the president of the United States. He grows up to be the president of the United States. His best friend is his vice president. And the heroine, now that she's older, the president calls for her, and they end up starting a romance now that they're older. And it was interesting, but I didn't love the way the romance was going. I don't think that this series is going to be for me. I don't know if I'm going to continue. I really don't think so. I think I'm going to give this one 3 stars. I just was not really a fan. It's just not my cup of tea. Then I read Academy of Protectors by Gray Holborn. This is the first one in a paranormal, what's going to be a reverse harem series. There's very little romance in book 1. It's very short. It's basically this heroine has been raised with her adopted brother by their adopted father very reclusively away from their people. They are these protectors. That's what they're being raised to be. And then one day their adoptive father takes a job at the Protector Academy, and so they get moved there and they get thrust into the world of actual protectors. And there are a lot of secrets about, I think the heroine is going to be this like very special person in the world, but that's all like teased at as like future books, and you get like a tease of who is going to be in her harem, but there is very little to no romance in book 1. It was a little bit boring. I wanted it to be a little bit more. I think it's going to be 3.5 stars. I am interested in reading the second one because I did like the hints of the characters, but it felt very much like a prequel. Like it didn't really feel like a whole book, and I felt like it could have been more, like it could have been either longer or it could have been quicker. Like nothing really happened in book 1. It was very much like a setup, very much like not a lot happened. I wanted the ideas of what I thought might happen to happen, but nothing really happened. Then I read For the Fans by Nyla K. I loved this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. This is an stepbrothers, enemies to lovers romance where they end up in a financial situation where they cannot pay for college, and so they decide to do gay porn together. They have an OnlyFans account and they do porn together in order to pay for college. But this book was really interesting because you start from literally the first moment that they meet each other, when they're younger, when they're teenagers, and you get every single moment together of their relationship. You build this enemies to lovers romance. It was so well done. I really, really liked it. I thought that the writing was so interesting. I love how much you knew these characters, you knew their relationship, and so when they do start falling in love with each other, it was such a believable romance. The way that they had built the relationship so much was so well done. I really, really, really liked it. It was so entertaining. It was definitely long, but unlike some of the other books that I had issues with being so long, this one I liked every scene, and so I was not sure how you would make it shorter because I think that the building of the romance, of how slow it was important to the story. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I really, really liked it and I would definitely recommend it, but just know going into it, it's long. Then I read The Way You Bite by Zoe Forward. This one, I just wanted a vampire. I was feeling spooky season and I just wanted something vampires and dumb. That's basically what I wanted. I was really in the mood for like a Wattpad-esque vampire werewolf romance, and this one I found on Audible Plus, and it's exactly what I was. It was a romance between a vampire and a werewolf, and that is incredibly forbidden. The vampires and the werewolves hate each other. The heroine is like the daughter of the vampire king, and the vampires and the werewolves are at war, and then she's also a vet, and so when the werewolf king gets shot, he comes to the vet for her to take the bullet out of him, and they end up having a romance. It was wild. It was kind of ridiculous, but it was kind of fun. Like, it was exactly what I wanted it to be. Would I recommend it? I'm not sure, because it wasn't necessarily good. It was definitely what I wanted. It was fun. The writing was not amazing, but it was what I wanted. It felt like when you read a novella and you're like, was this good or was this just what I wanted? You know? I'm gonna give it 3 stars. It hit the spot of what I was itching for. Then I read Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. I read this for a vlog that I'm gonna be doing, or gonna come out with. I liked it. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. It is a billionaire hero and an obsessive hero. He's very like morally gray, and I liked it. I'm not gonna go too far into it because you will see my full thoughts when that vlog comes out, but I did like it. Then I read Obsession Falls by Claire Kingsley. This is Claire Kingsley's new book that's starting the Haven Brothers series. I love the Bailey Brothers series. It is one of my favorite series. 2 of her books were on my top 22 of 2022 last year. Obsessed with the Bailey Brothers. So when I found out she was making the Haven Brothers, I was so freaking excited. So the first one that she has is Josiah Haven, and this one, it's a romantic suspense. The heroine has a stalker. I had a great time with this. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I did like it. I didn't love it as much as like the first couple of Bailey Brothers books that I read, but this one was the first one in the series. I think it was amazing to be back in Tillicum. I liked the romantic suspense aspect of it. The romance between Josiah and the heroine was so good. I loved the heroine's dog. I loved Josiah as this like grumpy hero, and I am so intrigued for the rest of the brothers and their stories. I hope that we get Marigold's book, and I hope that she is with the bad boy. I really hope that they have their romance together because I'm really itching for that. I think they'd be so good together, but I loved being back in Tillicum. I love this small town and their obsession with the squirrels. I think it's so fun, and I would recommend this book. I would highly recommend reading the Bailey Brothers series first because the Bailey Brothers are like cameoed in this book, and just because the Bailey Brothers series is fabulous. But I loved this. 4 stars. I had a great time. The lighting is so bad. I'm so sorry. Then I read Neutral Zone by Tegan Hunter. This one is the last book in this series that I can't remember the name of. I think it's the Carolina Comets series. And this one I'm going to give 3.5 stars. Also, this one was not everything that I wanted it to be. I felt like it was cute. This book and this whole series is very low angst, very just like basic hockey romances. And this one, I felt like the argument that the hero and the heroine had was kind of dumb. So this one, the hero is a hockey player and the heroine is a cam girl, and she also works at the donut truck that the hockey players go to. He knows that she's the cam girl. He watches her. He's had a crush on her, and she doesn't know that he watches her, but she has a crush on him. And so when they start finally dating, she finds out that he watches her and that he knew who she was. I just didn't love the way that the conflict went. I thought it was a little bit dumb, but it was 3.5 stars. It was not bad. It was a very basic hockey romance. Then I read Hopeless by Elsie Silver, and this one is the last book in the Chestnut Spring series. I had very high expectations for this one, and I think that was kind of my downfall because I have loved this series. I've loved Heartless and I loved Reckless so much. Reckless is going to be on my top 10 of this year. I love that book with my whole heart. And so when this one came out, I was like very excited. I didn't love this. And I'm a little sad that I didn't love this because this series has been so good. But this one is Beau's book, and this book did not go how I thought it was going to go at all. I had really suspected that it was going to go deep into Beau's PTSD. It was going to be a little darker, a little bit grittier because Beau has PTSD and he has a lot of suffering from being a POW in Afghanistan, and so I thought it was going to deal heavily with that. It didn't. The heroine Bailey is like from the most hated family in town, and so this book dealt a lot with Bailey's trauma instead of Beau's trauma, and I didn't really care about that. And then I also thought that this is a fake engagement romance, and the reason for them being fake engaged was dumb as fuck. I was just like, what is the point of this? That's so ridiculous. And so I didn't really believe in the reason why they were getting fake engaged. I thought it was so stupid. I liked the way that the romance went. Like, I liked how Beau fell for Bailey, but I thought that the plot was really not what I wanted it to be. And so this is my least favorite in this series for sure. I think it's gonna be 3.5 stars. I did not really love this, and I'm really sad that I didn't love this because I loved the rest of the series. But this one just did not live up to the rest of the series. The plot made no sense to me. Why? I think that this could have been incredibly well done if the plot had gone the way that I think a lot of people thought it was going to go. Because when I was looking at Goodreads reviews, I was like, I really hope other people have seen what I've seen and I'm not just like the only one. So I went and read a couple of Goodreads reviews, and a lot of them were saying the same things that I said, which is that they thought that it was going to be a little darker, a little grittier because of Beau, and that this just followed Bailey's trauma. And I just didn't really care about Bailey's trauma. Yeah, I was very disappointed, and it's gonna be 3.5 stars. Then the last book that I read so far this month was The Gossip and the Grump by Pippa Grant. This is the second book in her, I think it's called The Three Best Friends and a Wedding series. The first one was called The Worst Wedding Date, and I actually really liked that one. I thought it was so fun, and I actually would highly, highly, highly recommend reading book one before you read this book two. It says that it can be read as a standalone. I really think that you need to read book one. It just would make so much more sense. And so this one is The Gossip and the Grump. It follows the second best friend in the trio, and it follows very much the aftermath of book one. So in book one of the best friends was getting married, and her marriage very much fell apart. She never ended up getting married, and so this very much follows the aftermath of what's revealed in book one. The main heroine in this book, she played a huge part in why the wedding didn't happen. She's a gossip, and she knew something about the groom and didn't tell the bride. And so when the bride finds out that the heroine knew, she's very betrayed. The heroine is like, I'm gonna give up gossip. She's like, I'm a horrible friend. I can't believe I didn't tell her. She ends up getting drunk and trying to do these like good deeds while she's still at the wedding destination, which was Hawaii. And she meets this guy there, and they end up having a one-night stand, and then she leaves and ghosts him. And she goes back to her small town. She's devastated because her beloved cafe has been sold to somebody, which is another thing that happened in book one. And so she's waiting for the new owner of this cafe to come, and when he comes, it is the guy that she had the one-night stand with in Hawaii. So she's desperately wants to keep her cafe and keep it from changing, and the hero, who's the guy she had the one-night stand with, who now owns the cafe, has these plans to change it because he wants to get back at the groom from book one. So it's very tangled up with the events of book one. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend reading book one in order to actually understand what's going on in this one. Otherwise, I feel like you'd be a little confused. I mean, they do a lot to like try and explain what happened in book one, but it would just make so much more sense if you just went and read book one. But I liked this one. I didn't like it as much as book one, but I did like it. I think that you know what you're getting when you read a Pippa Grant. Her books are so silly and fun and a little out there and suspend your disbelief kind of romantic comedies, and I had a good time with it, but I definitely liked book one better. I'm intrigued for book three, which they teased in the epilogue of this one, who follows Emma, who is the third best friend, who is actually the bride from book one, Who Never Got Married. And so I liked it. I don't know what I'm gonna rate it, probably 4 stars. But yeah, that's the last one that I read so far in October. But that's it. That's the last one that I read so far in October. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe, stick around, see more content from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have the absolute best day.